Hey YouTube family, I'm Seidl, and today we are at our Frenchtown project that we recently completed the phase 1. And so I'm gonna walk you through one of the main areas of the house, which is the living room. I'm Seidl, the owner and principal designer of Lewis & Rose Interiors, a residential interior design firm located in booming Frisco, Texas. We are so excited to bring you everything from practical design tips and tricks, to fun room reveals, to informative interviews, and of course, a whole lot of really beautiful designs. Like, subscribe, and then comment with your thoughts and questions. We love hearing from you and can't wait to share with you some truly fun and inspiring content. So welcome. All right, so for this project, we had a really specific design aesthetic that we were going for. This is for a bachelor pad, and he wasn't quite sure of what he wanted, so we kind of helped develop the overall design scheme for him. And in the end, the design scheme that we pretty much landed on was Prohibition meets Mad Men meets Hunting Lodge. So we wanted to infuse very, very different styles into this one project, so you'll kind of see that throughout. The first thing I want to show you is the built-in. There was originally a built-in already here. It was, I think this house was built in, maybe it's like the late 80s, early 90s. Really heavy wood with kind of a red undertone, really feminine kind of styles with the eyelid curves. Just wasn't what he wanted. Plus, back then, they didn't have a lot of bigger TVs, so the size for the TV inset was just way too small. So he was asking if we could modify it, and ultimately, it was more expensive to modify than to rebuild. So sometimes you might want to remember that. You might think, oh, I can modify this and this and this. You should also get a quote on just ripping it out and getting it new, and I guarantee you, sometimes the ripping it out and starting new is actually going to be more cost effective. So that's what we did here. And we designed this really specifically. So this is right across from the kitchen. He kept all of his original cabinetry in the kitchen, which is really similar to the original built-in that was in here. So it still has some of those curves. So when we design a space and we're not just ripping out everything at once, we want to make sure certainly that the rooms we're designing are elevated and designed well, but we also don't want it to be so different from the rest of the rooms that it was obvious which rooms we have gone. So we like to infuse elements of existing areas to make sure that there's really a cohesion and a flow through the home. So some of the details we really wanted to bring in here, for starters, was just the profile of this cabinetry. Even though we were doing a much more modern aesthetic, which we could have gone with like a shaker, which is just a clean trim right here, we decided to have this little divot to bring in a little more of that traditional aspect that is throughout some of the areas of his home that he didn't want to rip out. What we also did at the top is it's really nuanced, it's really slight, and I guarantee nobody walking in will ever actually notice it consciously, but subconsciously, they will all notice it and it feels cohesive. And that is the really slight curve at the top of the cabinetry. And that's to slightly mimic the eyebrow curve that is right across on the kitchen on some of those existing cabinets. So again, just doing it in a way that's elevated, that's not overt, but making it feel really cohesive. So we use this almost complete black here to really to anchor the space. We put a wood topper on here to bring in some of those more warmer, rustic, kind of the hunting lodge tones. And then we have speakers in here. So we wanted to make sure that there was some sound that was able to come out, but they're not pretty speakers. So we put this oil rubbed bronze mesh in between both of these. And then just some little details that we love. We did these little brass rivet and leather pools just to give it that little something extra. We thought they were really fun. And then of course at the top, we wanted to make sure that it was just styled well, so there wasn't just a big open space that was made just for a TV. All right, let's scoot over to the fireplace. So the fireplace facade we completely redid. because before it has something, if you're in Texas, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, especially in the Dallas area. Has something what I like, I don't actually know the real name of the stone. I call it the giraffe stone. It's where it's big, different pieces of stone, and some are like really orange and some are really creamy, and it's a very specific look. So it definitely didn't go with some of the updating that we were doing the rest of the home. So we didn't want it to be the focal point in this room because we have other focal points, but we certainly wanted to elevate and update it. So we took all of that out. He had this was his existing mantle, but it had corbels, got rid of those, gave it a new stain, made it a floating mantle, which immediately modernizes a space. And then we did this, it's not brick, but it looks like brick. It's not cement, but it looks like cement. Porcelain stone all the way throughout. So we took it from the hearth all the way to the ceiling. And then we just kept the styling of it really fun, really minimal. One of my designers is actually from the Northeast, and she chuckled when we designed. She was like, I can certainly say I have never put a skull as the main piece of art over a fireplace. It's like, welcome to Dallas for that one. So that was a first for her. Okay, so I talked about focal points a little bit. One of my favorite focal points in this entire house is this gallery wall that we did. With this gallery wall, it's actually on the side, so it's a focal point, but it's over here. We love it because we kept the amount of furnishings in this room actually very minimal because of how he said he uses the space. So as designers, the function and flow is first, like what we build the design on. And so he wanted it open. He just wanted a couch that he can kick back and watch TV, but have it open. So we didn't put a whole bunch of furniture in this space. So we put a lot of the interest in this gallery wall that is just, it's a little whimsy, it's a little cheeky, it's a little vintage, it's a little hunting lodge, it's a little mid-century. It's kind of all of those things that were the aesthetics, the core aesthetics that we were going for, all up here. And if you've seen our Instagram, which we do all of our kind of current things on there, you'd see this Dalmatian that I love. This is Sir Darius, the Dalmatian, one of our favorite prints we've ever put in somebody's house. But for an overall gallery wall, it looks effortless. It was not effortless. There are definitely guidelines that we like to use to make sure that we curate a gallery wall really well. We actually drew this out in our CAD software to make sure we had, the perfect sizing and all of the things to ensure that we have that balanced look to it. And then added a cowboy hat and some horseshoes just to make it feel a little bit more organic. All right, so let's talk about the furnishings in this space. When we walked through at the very beginning, we talk about how a client uses the space. So the form, yes, is certainly important, but the function and the flow of it is the foundation for how we design a space. So we didn't want, because of what he told us how he wanted to use it, we did not want a whole bunch of furniture in the space. But we made sure that the pieces that we picked were really intentional and really comfortable, of course. So the first piece is this massive ottoman in lieu of a coffee table. Again, this is a bachelor pad. He is a business owner. He wants to literally kick his feet up when he comes home. And so we gave him this leather upholstered massive ottoman in lieu of coffee table. Yes, there's a tray, it's still practical, all the things, and wipeable, but we just wanted to make sure that comfort, which was something that was important to him, was addressed clearly in a really big way in this living room. Over here we have just this really fun, it's kind of a dark olive green. It's kind of pulling in some of the greens that we have in another room in the dining room. So where you're looking around, you're seeing some of the same greens. This one we did tufted, which we specifically chose it to be tufted because that's giving the nod to really that Prohibition 1920s, the more regal look. And then we paired it right next to this really squared, boxy, modern, yes, plush, but very modern sofa. It's got what's called a plinth wood base, which is just kind of a solid base at the bottom. It's just not the upholstery sitting on the ground. Made sure that we have this really huge chaise that he can stretch out his legs on. And then we wanted, again, to bring in just a little bit of whimsy, a little bit of fun, kind of also a nod to the fun that's going on in the gallery walls. So we did this brown antelope print. Yes, again, bachelor pad, but we don't want to polarize anyone. We want some of the females to feel at home here as well. So we did this, and then we brought in some of the green velvet that we loved using kind of throughout his home in these pillows. All right, the last thing I really want to touch on is the rug in here. I wish you guys could like reach through the screen to touch this rug, especially if you're a texture person like me. It is the softest rug. I've touched tens of thousands of rugs. This is the softest rug I have ever felt. So if you're curious what it is, drop it in the comments and we can actually tell you which rug it is. You guys can purchase it from us. But I love this rug. We chose it, yes, because it is soft, but it has all of the colors of the color scheme in this house that kind of anchors it right in the middle. Something also that we did, kind of a tricks of the trade that I harp on and talk a lot about, and we have a home styling certification course. So one of those is about how to properly use rugs, how to layer rugs. So we used that guideline, that tip in this living room. So in the 1980s, 90s, early 2000s, don't know why, but builders loved to put fireplaces in the corner. And the reason it's annoying is because it makes furniture placement and rug placements really tricky, because you want to have a really big rug, but then it's like, what do? The rug is gonna start to come up over the hearth, start to like pill over. We can't have it really big this way because then it goes behind the sofa. You see the slippery slope that I'm on. So the tip for this like strange corner fireplaces is rug layering. So in here, we selected a smaller rug. That way it didn't go up onto the hearth, and we layered it with an asymmetrical rug. In this case, it was a faux cowhide. And the reason that we did that was because when we had to shrink the rug size, we had this huge area over here that didn't feel anchored because it didn't have a rug on it. So by putting this cowhide, by layering it on top, it makes it feel curated, it makes it feel intentional, but it's also solving a problem that most homeowners can't figure out or can't solve on their own. We have lots and lots more, by the way, of those styling tips, as well as business guidelines, a whole bunch of stuff in that home styling certification course. So it's homestylingcourse.com. So make sure to check that out. But this is one that we use all of the time. All right, so that is the living room for our recently finished phase 1 of our Frenchtown project. You guys make sure that at the end of these videos, if you really enjoy them, make sure that you're pressing the like button, that you guys are subscribing, that you guys are turning on your notifications. That way you don't miss any of the content. If there's any additional content that you're really hoping to see more of, whether it's behind the scenes, more tips and tricks, or more room reveals, put those in the comments and we look at those every week.